In little over a century, Mercedes-Benz has been able to go from patenting the world's first gasoline car to creating the most expensive car ever sold. Unfortunately, it hasn't always been a smooth ride for Mercedes, as leading the way in car innovation can be a challenging thing. So, fasten your seatbelt for this one because we are taking a ride into the evolution of Mercedes-Benz. Years before Mercedes-Benz was founded in 1926 by Carl Benz, Gottlieb Daimler, Wilhelm Maybach and Emil Jelinek, the name Mercedes belonged to a little girl, and Benz was still a locksmith. When Benz, aka the father of the car, was young, he progressed quickly from a locksmith to a designer and workshop foreman, to the forerunner of Carl Benz and August Ritter engineering workshop. Around the time he started his first solo venture, he had a vision of a vehicle without horses. So, in 1878, he started working intensively on a gas-driven two-stroke engine to actualize this vision. And on New Year's Eve in 1879, after long and challenging attempts, he got the engine running for the first time. By the 1890s, Benz found success in producing stationary and vehicle engines, but he wanted to focus exclusively on vehicles, so he started the company Carl Benz and Sons in Ladenburg in 1906. On the other hand was Daimler Motors Corporation, who had made a car named Mercedes in 1892. 15 years before the first Mercedes was made, way before Mercedes-Benz even became a brand name, the world's first automobile had already rolled out in 1886, and it looked nothing like a car. This quirky tri-wheeler was powered by a single-cylinder engine chugging away at a whopping 0.75 horsepower. Looking back, it seems like a toy compared to the cars we have today, but this toy was the birth certificate of the automobile. 2 years later, in 1888, Benz released the third version of the original motor wagon, which featured a single-cylinder four-stroke engine, but the version had only 2 gears and was believed to not be able to climb hills unaided. That was until Mrs. Benz, aka Bertha Benz, rectified this misconception by driving a distance of 100 kilometers from Mannheim to Pforzheim to visit her mother. In fact, she made history as the first person to drive an internal combustion-engined automobile over a long distance, and the first wife to ever take her husband's car without his knowledge. And before you know it, word of the vehicle's reliability spread across the world like wildfire and got the company its first sales. 5 years before the first Mercedes, we witnessed the creation of the world's first motor coach from Benz & Co. in 1894. The bus facilitated a scheduled bus service on the route Siegen-Netphen-Duis, but due to poor weather and technical problems, the bus service was stopped a year later. No one knew it yet, but this was just one of many failed models to come. But at the dawn of the 20th century, we saw the most successful first Mercedes. The 35 GP Mercedes, a powerful lightweight vehicle with a low center of gravity that stands out from all previously built cars. Matter of fact, it is the first modern automobile, and is not only attributed to the genius of Wilhelm Maybach, but also to the initiative of Emil Jelinek. You see, this car wouldn't have existed if Emil Jelinek, the Austrian Jewish racing enthusiast who ran a profitable business selling cars, didn't contract Daimler Motors for a small series of dedicated sports cars, containing an engine that officially bore his daughter's name. This model was so successful that DMG began to apply the name as a series to other models such as Mercedes 811th GP and Mercedes 40 GP Simplex. In 1910, Benz and Cie shook up the world of automotive by introducing the first true sports cars. It happened when the company was taking part in the 3rd edition of the Prince Heinrich Tour with a delegation of 10 specially designed touring cars. 4 of them were equipped with a 5.7-litre engine with 80 horsepower, and the other 6 had a 7.3-litre 4-cylinder engine with an output of at least 100 horsepower. The 80 GP cars were even able to reach a top speed of around 120 kilometers per hour. The car's advanced engine design was a standout feature, setting Benz and Cie years ahead of many competitors and almost bankrupting Daimler Motorengesellschaft. Well, maybe not quite bankrupting them, but it would set the stage for a future partnership, as we will see later on. On the 2nd of April 1922, Daimler Motors entered 3 different Mercedes vehicles in the 13th edition of the Targa Florio. The Mercedes 115 PS Grand Prix race car took overall victory and won its class ahead of 2 other identical cars. This was a supercharged car bearing the 3-pointed star started by DMG's chief designer at the time, Paul Daimler. He was responsible for the naturally aspirated 4.5-litre engine in the 1914 GP car and the supercharged vehicles that followed. He learned about supercharging principles through aviation, and in September 1919, he began his first tests evaluating the technology for automotive applications. These cars developed over 50% more power with the supercharger than their naturally aspirated counterparts. DMG eventually became the first manufacturer to install superchargers on production models, setting a trend that would continue for decades. Fun fact: the supercharged Mercedes cars of the 1920s were the ancestors of today's AMG beasts, proving that good genes really do run in the family. 1926 was a year that revved up the engines of history, specifically June 28th, as the automotive giants, Benz and Daimler Motorengesellschaft, decided to crossbreed to create what we now know as Mercedes-Benz. The merger was a strategic move to survive the economic conditions post-World War I. Together, they had a workforce of over 15,000 people and produced almost 6,000 automobiles the year before the merger. 4 months after the merger, the new company presented the first Daimler-Benz product range at the 1926 Berlin Motor Show. The exhibition saw the unveiling of the first jointly developed passenger car models launched under the new Mercedes-Benz brand, named the 38 GP 2-litre car, W02, and the 55 GP 3-litre model, W03. From 1930 until 1944, Mercedes-Benz built a large luxury car known as Mercedes-Benz 770, or the Grosser Mercedes, German for large Mercedes. This is the car that the top 1% of the world drove in. You have the likes of Reich President Paul von Hindenburg, Emperor Hirohito, and Pope Pius XI riding in the car. Even Adolf Hitler rode one, and after it was substantially revised in 1938 to introduce the new internal designation of W150, he offered them as gifts to his allies, regardless of the fact that it was the most expensive German passenger car for sale up to that time. 5 years after the last car of the 770 model was made and sold, Mercedes-Benz doubled down on another luxury car in 1949, the 170S. It was the first Mercedes-Benz to have an S, which means Sondermodell, aka special model. And this time its target market wasn't Hitler and his buddies, but successful business owners and company directors. The Mercedes-Benz W187 Model 220, which was produced from 1951 to 1954, was another luxury car. It really resembled the Mercedes-Benz 170S. The only thing that differentiated them was how the 170's freestanding headlights were integrated into the fenders of the 220 for a slightly more modern look. This model used the newly developed M186-cylinder 2195cc engine, and it created media buzz because it was the first new engine presented by Mercedes-Benz in more than a decade. Of course, not every idea was a walk in the park. Mercedes-Benz had its fair share of wobbly prototypes, like the Flügeltür, gull-wing door concept that, while iconic, turned out to be more of a novelty than a practical feature. The first model to use this concept was the 300 SL, introduced in 1952. This endurance car scored overall wins at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in Bern-Bremgarten, in the sports car race of the Eifelrennen at the Nürburgring, and in Mexico's Carrera Panamericana. It also managed second and fourth places at its first outing, the Mille Miglia in 1952, and won the Rally Stella Alpina in 1955 in its last edition. For such an amazing invention, only 10 of them were made. But it led to the iconic Mercedes 300 SL Ord W 198 gull-wing road car in 1954. The Mercedes 300 SL was equipped with a mechanical direct fuel injection system that significantly increased the power output of the W194's 3-litre overhead camshaft straight-six engine. The model that came next was the W196R, a reincarnation of the W194. Not long after, a better model emerged as the Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR in 1955. Only 9 of these models were made, and 2 out of these 9 were modified by the firm's chief engineer, Rudolf Uhlenhaut, making it the Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR Uhlenhaut Coupe. Mercedes-Benz didn't know it at the time, but they had just made the most expensive car to ever be sold, because on the 5th of May 2022, the car would be auctioned off for 135 million euros to an unknown collector at the Mercedes-Benz Museum. Not every model that rolled out of the merged company was priceless, but the Mercedes-Benz 600 Grosser had a very huge one that could be afforded only by royalty and business tycoons. The car's great size, weight, and numerous hydraulically driven amenities required a more powerful engine, so a new V8 with more than twice the capacity was developed. It featured single overhead camshafts, SOHC, and a Bosch-made intermittent multi-point manifold injection, and developed 247 horsepower. Oh, and it was a gas guzzler of epic proportions. It was like the thirsty uncle at a family reunion, always at the fuel pump. The Mercedes-Benz C111 of 1969 is a bit like the unicorn of the automotive world. Rare, mythical, and everyone wanted to catch a glimpse of it. This experimental car was a playground for Mercedes-Benz's wildest engineering dreams and a testbed for technologies that were way ahead of their time, like its sleek fiberglass body and gull-wing doors. Underneath its vibrant orange skin, called Weissherbst, lay a mid-mounted three-rotor Wankel engine that hummed a tune of 280 horsepower. However, the Wankel engine was too fond of fuel and not too keen on emissions, leading Mercedes-Benz to eventually part ways with the concept. You have probably always been thrilled by the brilliance of the G-Class, so let's take a trip down memory lane to 1979. Known affectionately as the G-Wagen, short for Geländewagen. Try saying that 3 times fast. This boxy beauty, originally designed as a military vehicle, quickly became a civilian favorite, being able to climb a mountain in the morning and roll up to a movie premiere at night. The 1982 Mercedes-Benz 190 class, also known as the W201, was a compact executive car that introduced the world to the multi-link suspension system. It was a significant departure from the traditional suspension setups of the time. It featured 5 independent arms that allowed each wheel to move separately, rapidly adapting to road irregularities. The multi-link suspension was a complex design that required meticulous engineering. The result was a car that not only provided a more comfortable ride, but also had the agility and poise of a sports car when needed. Now imagine if James Bond decided to trade in his spy gadgets for a set of golf clubs and a golden retriever. What would he drive? Nothing other than the Mercedes-Benz S500 shooting brake, the epitome of luxury, with a dash of practicality, or as I like to call it, the gentleman's express. This car wasn't just a mode of transport, it was a fashion statement on 4 wheels. At the turn of another century, Mercedes-Benz began equipping their vehicles with telematics, allowing cars to communicate with the outside world. This feature was a precursor to the modern connected car, offering drivers a new level of interaction with their vehicles. From 2000 onwards, one particular model came with this feature, the Mercedes-Benz S-Class. The S-Class has always been at the forefront of Mercedes-Benz's technological advancements, and with telematics, it offered drivers services like remote access, vehicle locating, and in-vehicle internet connectivity. It was like giving your car a smartphone before smartphones were even a thing. This Grand Sports Tourer, introduced in 2002, was Mercedes-Benz's answer to those who wanted it all. The space of a minivan, the elegance of a saloon, and the performance of a sports car. With room for 6, the Vision GST was like a luxury lounge on wheels, complete with handcrafted materials and innovative lighting. The Vision GST was powered by a 5.4-litre V8 AMG engine, delivering 360 horsepower to ensure that it wasn't just a pretty face. But the Vision GST didn't end in a single model. Its DNA is evident in models like the R-Class. The Mercedes-Benz R-Class, a luxurious multi-purpose vehicle, MPV, made its grand entrance in 2005. Over the years, the R-Class got upgraded with more engine options, including a new 3-litre V6 in both petrol and diesel versions, and the availability of rear-wheel drive alongside the 4MATIC all-wheel drive system. However, while the rest of the world bid farewell to the R-Class in 2013, it continued to cruise the streets of China until 2017. In April 2009, the F-Cell Roadster retraced the historic Bertha Benz memorial route, celebrating the pioneering journey of Bertha Benz in 1888. It was a fitting tribute, showcasing how far automotive technology has come since the days of the first long-distance drive. The F-Cell Roadster featured drive-by-wire technology and was controlled not with a steering wheel but with a joystick, giving it a futuristic feel with an operating range of up to 350 kilometers. The Mercedes-Benz Energy Force of 2012 was like the automotive world's answer to a sci-fi blockbuster. This concept car was made for the Los Angeles Design Challenge with the theme A Highway Patrol Vehicle 2025, and it looked every bit the part of a futuristic enforcer. Underneath its muscular exterior, the Energy Force was powered by a hydrogen fuel cell and 4 in-wheel electric motors. The Hydrotech converter was a fancy way of saying it could turn water into hydrogen for fuel. It is a clean machine with a mean exterior. You can see why they called it Energy Force. In 2016, Mercedes-Benz took a giant leap into the connected future with the introduction of Car-to-X communication in the 2017 E-Class. As a result of years of R&D in the field of telematics and vehicle connectivity. It could warn drivers of slippery roads, unexpected traffic jams, or broken down vehicles ahead, even if they were out of sight. Unveiled in 2019, the EQ Silver Arrow is part of Mercedes-Benz's EQ brand, which stands for Electric Intelligence. It represents a growing family of electric vehicles designed to lead the charge into a new era of mobility. This electric concept car is an upgrade to the record-breaking Mercedes-Benz W125 record wagon from 1938. But instead of a roaring V12, it hums with the clean, quiet power of electricity. The EQ Silver Arrow boasts an electric motor that delivers a staggering 750 horsepower from an 80 kilowatts battery. It's like Mercedes decided to put the E from elegance and electric together, and voila, the EQC was born in 2020. Speaking of electric, the EQC can go from 10% to 80% in just 40 minutes with a fast charger. That's less time than it takes to watch an episode of your favorite show. But it's not all smooth driving. The EQC faced some bumps on the road. While it boasted an official range of 244 miles, real-world figures showed it was more like a 192-mile jaunt. The EQT introduced in 2021 is like the cool, new car on the block, showing up with a fresh take on the electric van concept. While the EQT is all about space and comfort for the big family adventures, the EQC is the one you'd take on a swanky, silent getaway. In 2022, Mercedes-Benz EQS, a battery electric full-size luxury liftback car, was released. Its automobile drag coefficient is as low as 0.20, making it the most aerodynamic car in production at the time of its introduction. The car is powered by a water-cooled permanent magnet synchronous motor from Valeo Siemens in the EQS 450 Plus model, and by two of these motors in the EQS 584 Matic model. In 2024, the new S-Class was introduced. Looking at this car, you just can't help but wonder how far Mercedes-Benz has come. It's like a story straight out of a sci-fi movie. And to make the story even more intriguing, Mercedes announced the upcoming 2025 release of the new Mercedes Concept CLA. It is a marvel to behold, not only because it has a similar slinky silhouette to the current Mercedes CLA, but because it will also be the first car to use a new collection of parts known as the MMA platform, which will give it up to 466 miles of range. So which of these models intrigued you most, and which would you like to see next?